In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create interactive doors. Alright, so let's start out by setting up our elevator. We want to create interactive doors for our elevator, but the problem that we would have with this is that the elevator is going to animate as well. And so the doors need to be part of that object. Now the reason that I want to attach the two doors to the elevator shell, which is on the outside as you can see here, the reason we want to attach all of them together or parent them together is because if I animate the elevator shell going up, I want the doors to come along with it. And it's important to have all of those attached before you do any animation inside of Matinee. Because if you animate the doors and then you attach them to another object, the values that are input into Matinee are going to be changed. And so what would happen is your doors might fly off out into just random space based on the position of the object that it's attached to. So this is the proper way of doing it. First thing we'll do is we'll select both of the doors. Then we're going to right click on them and we're going to click on Attach To. Let me go ahead and click down here a little bit lower. So we have Attach To, and then in our list, and I apologize for that going off screen, we're going to find the object that we want it to attach to. So in our case, we want it to attach to SM_elevator shell. Left click on that, and so now those objects are part of the elevator shell. So if I select the elevator shell and I move it, you'll notice that the doors come along with it. Perfect. Now, whenever we begin the process of animating static meshes like this, like the doors or the elevator shell, we want to make sure that those objects are set to movable in their mobility type. So by default, all static meshes are set to static, meaning that whenever light is baked, it recognizes those objects and bakes lighting onto those. With movable objects, it doesn't bake lighting onto them. Okay, so let's select the doors and the elevator shell, and with all three of those selected, as you can see, 3 objects selected, we're going to switch it to movable. Now let's select just a single door at a time. So let's select the one on the left here, and we're going to add those to our Matinee object. Now we want a new Matinee object for our doors. So I'm going to type in Matinee. Let's left click and drag that right here in front of the elevator and rename it to Matinee Actor _ elevator doors. So with that, let's open it up inside of Matinee. Let's dock that up here so we can see it a little bit easier. And we're going to right click and we're going to create a new empty group. Now with static meshes like doors and elevators and any other object that can be animated inside of Unreal, most of the time you're going to use an empty group. Okay, so with this, let's call it elevator door _A. We're also going to create another elevator door group for the opposite one. So in this case, we're going to select this one, and then we're going to right click, create a new empty group, call that elevator door _B. Now with these selected, we'll want to come in and create a new movement track on each one of those. So let's select elevator door _A, go back into your scene, make sure that you have this one selected, and then right click on it and create a new group. So let's say new movement track, and I said movement group, I meant movement track. And then on elevator door B, we're going to right click and create a new movement track on it. So select movement here, go back to your scene. It should select this one here, but for some reason it doesn't appear to be doing that. Let's try this one more time. Let's actually remove these. So you can actually right click and delete the groups. Something happened there, I'm not really sure what. Let's select one. Then let's right click, create a new empty group, call it elevator door _A. Let's go ahead and create our movement track while we're here. So that one's there. Then let's select the next one, do the same thing. Whenever you create these groups, it will select the proper object based on the way that you've created it. So let's create our new movement track. So if I select elevator door A, you'll see that it switches to the other one. If I go to elevator door B, go back to my scene, it switches to the other door. Perfect. So we know that this is associated properly. Now all we need to do is go to our movement track. Let's set up our animation to be set at the time of 2 seconds. Let's make sure that we grab the end animation bound there. And let's set both of those to 2. Let's take our time slider, set that to 2, and then we're going to add a key. With that key selected, let's just move our elevator door back to around this position here. And then we're going to select the opposite one. Okay, that's going to be elevator door B. Go to your movement, add a key, and then let's move it to the other side. So just like that. So it should open up. We're going to see the doors a little bit. That's just going to allow us to see those, and also make sure that they don't go completely inside the wall. So there we go. We have those set, and now what we want to do is we want to be able to play those whenever the player walks up to the elevator. So we need a new trigger. Let's go to our mode panel, the place tab, volumes, and at the very bottom you're going to see trigger volume. Left click and drag that into the scene, and let's place this to where we know the player is going to get it. So we want it to be level with the ground, and then we also want to make sure that it's right up against the door, so that way they can walk anywhere up against the elevator and the door will open. So something like that. Perfect. Now with that trigger set and in place, what we're going to do is we're going to associate that to our matinee, so that way it will play. The only way that we can do that is through Blueprint. So with this trigger selected, let's go ahead and open up our level blueprint. Let's create a new blueprint and a new event. So we're going to right click and we're going to use a new event using the trigger volume that we have selected. Let's use our collision events, and we're going to use the actor begin overlap. What that means is whenever the player touches it or is inside of that trigger, it's going to fire off an event. So what do we want it to do? We want it to play the animation of our matinee sequence for the doors. So let's go in, let's select our matinee object called elevator door. Then we'll go back into Blueprint, right click, and we're going to add an event, and we're actually going to call a function called play, and it's going to play that animation using the matinee actor elevator door that we had selected. Now all we have to do is simply tie them together by bringing the execution nodes together, wiring them together, and we should be able to just hit compile and then go in and play our level. So if I were to come in and hit play, I'm going to go ahead and close matinee, let it go. You'll see that the door is closed. Perfect. And then now we can come in, and if we come over to our elevator door, you'll see that they open as they should, and it looks good. Now the only issue that we have now is that the doors won't close. So how do we do that? This is actually very simple. If we go into our blueprint again, let's use the opposite of the begin overlap. Let's actually use the end overlap. So select your trigger volume, go into Blueprint, we're going to right click, and we're going to add a new event using the collision, and we're going to do actor end overlap. It's going to do the exact same thing, but we didn't create an animation that will close the doors. However, we did create the animation that will open it. Closing is just the reverse of play, right? So if I right click with my matinee object selected, if I right click and I type in the word reverse, you'll see that there's a cinematic function that can be used here. So with that plugged in, I can actually play the reverse of that whenever I step outside of that trigger. So watch this. Let's hit compile, and then let's play our level. It's going to go through the cinematic again. Everything's working as it should. Okay, I apologize for any slowdown that's on the computer. It's not coming through the actual engine. It's actually just the capture software. So if we move forward, we hit our trigger here, you'll see that it opens, and if we back up, it closes. Perfect. So now that we have that figured out, we're going to move on into our next lesson where we're going to learn how to animate our elevator going up based on input that we've applied inside of Blueprint. So I'll see you in the next lesson.